Once again, we have received a brand new game in the side-scrolling classicvania genre, and I've got to say a lot about it, so buckle in, grab your whip, and let's get to it. Crypt Stalker was published by Red Deer Games and developed by indie dev Sinclair Strange. I especially love the Natsume-style logo for Sinclair Strange, a nice little throwback nod to a company that, in my opinion, made some of the most underrated games during the 8 and 16-bit era. This game was released recently on Switch, though it's also available on Steam. Currently it's on sale on the eShop for $1.99, which is a steal for a game like this, so grab it if what you see here suits you. Here's my impressions on the game and all it has to offer. Crypt Stalker's story opens up smoothly enough with a slick cutscene in the style of games like Power Blade 2, Vice Project Doom, and more. You play as a demon hunter named Gladys, who travels to the pyramids of the damned to take on the latest hordes, which come to us thanks to every 90th solar eclipse? How often are solar eclipses happening in the universe? Okay. About 2 to 5 every year according to Google. Seems like a pretty decent vacation between demon spawnings. Also noteworthy is that these are not demon hunters but demon stalkers. The only thing that really bugged me about this intro was the lights or fireballs, whatever they were, going through her head as she drove by, almost as if her head was transparent. That really needs to be fixed. Getting into the menus, you'll see lots of stuff to check out, including options, which allow for customization of flickering adjustments, music and volume levels, and unlimited lives? Okay, that's kinda cool. There's also some extras like challenges, achievements, and sound tests. Getting back to the main start screen, there's console game and handheld game, the latter of which we'll discuss in a bit. There's 3 different modes here in the classic console game mode, with classics being the original experience with save states, casual mode, which is much easier but lacks save states to balance out what is missing from the classic mode, and the lost sequel, which is extra bonus levels that maybe would have been in the sequel had it existed? The game is an obvious love letter to Castlevania, with bits of Vice Project Doom thrown in. On the Switch version, you press B to jump and A to fire, which honestly always messes with my head. A to jump and B to shoot on an NES controller, or B to jump and Y to shoot on an SNES controller, are my default, so when a game switches it up, it can cause kind of a delay in action, but this is more of a personal gripe. I do wonder why controls weren't available to be switched, as this method of play is a bit unconventional. You could switch between whip and gun with the X button, and there are little candle-style power-ups that can be whipped and collected, which can increase ammo count, offer up different style guns a la Contra, as well as things like 1-ups and increases in power for your whip. Also, wall meat, or candle meat? There's also wall meat and wall 1-ups via hidden breakable blocks. Control here is not as tight as I would have liked. Gladys moves a bit too quick and you don't really feel like you've got a solid grasp on her feet. Her sprite moves fast, but there's a few moments where timing is everything and her quick movements caused more death than enemies did for me. There's an odd platforming bit here where blocks will rise up above and over the screen, which results in a death. But the platforms won't drop down below where they need to go, so this felt a bit illogical when the 2 platforms were compared. Why doesn't the platform drop through the floor? Also, grabbing items from the pseudo candles seems inconsistent. Sometimes you can be right on top of them and grab the item, but other times you have to move away a bit, then try to whip them. And this goes for enemies as well. I like the variety of enemies here. They felt very desert-ish, but also kind of felt techno-organic. Each stage has an end boss, and the patterns were simple enough to avoid, but the difficulty is mishmashed. Most are pretty easy to get through, but generally the bosses should get harder as the game progresses. However, some later bosses were easier than earlier ones, so the balance seems off a bit. There's a lot of neat platforming tactics used in this game, including the whip lasso. You've got to connect to these just right to make Gladys sail across chasms and spike pits, but because of the fast movement as well as the awkward jumping, I had problems getting across some of these the first time through. It feels like they are beyond the whip's reach, which requires a jump, then moving Gladys in midair, then a whip crack to get you to connect to it. This doesn't happen every time, but it's noticeable enough that when it happened, I made note of it. There's nothing wrong about this, it's just a specific control mechanic that needs a bit of work to be more user-friendly for the flow of the game. but the ideas are definitely there, and it is really fun to do once you make it happen. I also don't really understand the air portions of one of the stages where you have to go underwater. I'm not really quite sure how that air is refilling, but it seems to be doing it on its own. Maybe I'm just not paying attention to something that's disappearing or collecting, but I thought it was odd. I really like the visual style in this game. Tile sets and backgrounds mash up really well, and I get a bit of a Metroid NES vibe from some of the cluttery bits scattered around the background. There's a lot of color variety here without making things too busy or repeat too often, which is exactly what a good-looking game needs. I also dig the contrast of the bright colors with the darker ones. I would have liked to see more cutscenes, but I really enjoyed the visual spectacle of this game. Musically though, this one had a few decent tracks, but I think there's something missing that I just can't put my finger on. I wonder what sound font it's simulating, because it doesn't quite feel like Konami, nor does it sound like something from ICOM, the developer behind Vice Project Doom. It's somewhere in between. I always turn the music to max, and I had to turn it back down because it really drowned out the sound effects, which is totally on my end, not the developer's fault at all. Melodies here are passable for in-game, but honestly, not very memorable outside of it. Alright, now you're probably also wondering, hey, why has he been playing Castlevania music this whole time? Why is it that he's talking about the music but he's not showcasing any of it? Well, there's a really good reason for that. I can't find it. I can't find the soundtrack anywhere. It's not on Steam, it's not on Bandcamp, it's not on YouTube, it is just gone, missing. I've checked numerous sources that I normally use for my podcast, can't find it. So, yeah, here's a clip of audio just to throw it in there, which is going to have sound effects. But that's all I can give you. Crypt Stalker also offers a bonus Gameboy Style version of the game, which honestly I prefer when it comes to the controls. Gladys is reasonably paced to fit the Castlevania walk cycle better, the whip has improved reach, and overall I just felt like I had better control over her. Though it only has 4 levels as far as I can tell, I would love to see this expanded on for a future sequel if possible, as I think the Gameboy Style fits this game better. I'd even argue that the songs work here as compared to the NES styled version. It's really cool that the developer included this version, so hats off to them. Even if it was at full price, Crypt Stalker would still be completely worth the purchase. It's not perfect for sure, but it scratches that classicvania itch and is a great first attempt at creating a game in this genre while also borrowing the vibe from games like Vice Project Doom. If this had come out back in the day, it would have been considered a hidden gem that is above average, but not worthy to fit the classics moniker. Either way, grab this game. It's definitely fun. It's got a few problems, but I really think you'll enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please let me know what you thought about this game if you did play it in the comments down below. And if not, are you interested in playing this game? Let me know. As always, thanks so much for watching, and more content on the way.